The forest of Xyler was silent, except for the whisper of cold wind through the black trees. The twin moons cast pale light over the ground, silver shadows moving like ghosts between the roots. High in the branches, hidden by darkness, the alien Huntress watched her prey. Her eyes glowed faintly with golden fire, her muscles tense, her breath steady. She had hunted many before, strong beasts, cunning predators, even armed soldiers. But this prey was different. He was human. The Huntress had heard stories of humans, creatures who left their small blue planet and wandered into the galaxy. Most were fragile, too soft to fight real hunters. But they carried strange pride, a fire in their hearts that made them act beyond reason. That was why she had chosen him. Not because he looked strong, not because he carried weapons, but because he walked into the alien forest with calm steps. He did not hide. He did not tremble. He moved as if the night belonged to him. And that made her want to test him. From the branch above, she studied the way his hand brushed against the bark, the way his eyes scanned the horizon, not in fear, but in awareness. Her instincts told her to leap, to end the game quickly. One strike, one cut, and his life would belong to her. But something held her back. This prey was not running. He was waiting. The human paused in a clearing where the moonlight touched the earth like silver fire. He tilted his head as if listening. His lips curved into the smallest smile. And then he spoke, his voice low but steady. "I know you're there," he said. The Huntress stiffened in the shadows, her claws pressing against the bark. No prey had ever sensed her before. She was trained to be unseen, silent as the void. Yet he had found her. Her heart gave a single sharp beat. Was this arrogance or instinct? She narrowed her eyes, preparing to leap. But the human only turned his head slightly and began walking again. He did not look back. He did not run. He simply moved deeper into the forest, as if guiding her to follow. And so she did. The Huntress moved like a shadow from branch to branch. Her body made no sound as she trailed him. Each time he paused, she froze, waiting. Each time he walked, she followed. The rhythm of the hunt was perfect, predator and prey locked in silent dance. Yet it felt different, heavier. There was no fear sent from him, no panic in his steps. Only calm, only control. Finally, the human stopped near an ancient stone, broken and carved with marks of old battles. The Huntress crouched above, ready to strike. Her claws tightened around her weapon, her golden eyes locked on his back. But before she could move, he spoke again. "You've been watching me long enough," he said, his voice calm. "Are you here to kill me, or to understand me?" The words cut through the air sharper than any blade. The Huntress froze, her instincts torn. Why did his voice not shake? Why did his body not tremble? Why did he sound like a hunter speaking to prey? Her lips pulled back into the faintest smile, a rare thing for her kind. This was no ordinary chase. This was the beginning of something else. She landed silently behind him, her weapon glowing faintly in the moonlight. The ground trembled slightly under her weight. The human turned slowly, his eyes meeting hers without fear. For the first time in her long hunts, the Huntress felt her heartbeat quicken. Not because of danger, not because of victory, but because of curiosity. He was not afraid. He was waiting. The forest around them grew still. The night air heavy with tension. Predator and prey stood face to face. Yet in that moment, the Huntress wondered who was truly hunting whom. The Huntress circled the human in silence, her golden eyes never leaving his form. She had expected fear, perhaps trembling hands, or the sharp scent of panic. Instead, she found calmness, a strange confidence that unsettled her more than claws or blades ever could. His eyes did not look away. His breath was steady, his shoulders straight. It was as if he was not standing before a predator, but before an equal. And that thought was dangerous. She moved closer, her feet brushing lightly against the moss-covered ground. Her weapon shimmered faintly, a curved blade designed for fast strikes. One motion, and his throat could be cut. One motion, and the hunt would end. Yet something inside her resisted the simple kill. Something in the way he stood still, waiting, challenged her instincts. "Why don't you run?" she asked at last, her voice low and sharp like iron against stone. The human tilted his head, his lips forming the faintest smile. "Because prey runs," he answered, "and I am not prey." The words struck her deeper than any weapon. Her people had hunted across worlds, tearing down beasts and warriors alike. But never had anyone spoken back to her with such steady truth. She hissed softly, circling him like a wolf. Her muscles coiled, her blade ready. She thought to scare him, to break his composure with speed and force. So she lunged forward, her movement faster than lightning, her blade aimed at his chest. But the human moved too. Not faster, not stronger, but clever. He twisted sideways, letting her blade slash only air. And then he stepped back, his hand brushing her arm in passing. A touch so light, yet so daring it sent sparks across her skin. She spun around instantly, her instincts furious. No prey should have escaped that strike. No prey should have dared to touch her. But there he was, standing calm, his eyes meeting hers as if nothing had happened. "You hunt with strength," he said quietly, "but strength can be seen, predicted, and avoided." Her jaw tightened, rage and fascination mixing inside her chest. She leapt again, her movements sharper, her claws slashing with precision. But again he dodged, not with power but with timing. It was as if he was reading her, learning her rhythm, adapting to her strikes. The forest echoed with the clash of predator and human. Her blade sliced through bark, shattered stone, split the air itself. Yet he always slipped away, close enough to death to feel its breath, but never claimed by it. And with each failed strike, her heart beat harder, not with frustration alone, but with excitement. This was no weak creature. This was someone who forced her to fight as if her life also depended on it. At last, she drove him toward the ancient stone circle. Ruins of her people's old hunts stood tall, broken pillars and scarred rock. The perfect place to end the chase. With a flick of her hand, she activated the trap hidden within the circle. Glowing nets of energy rose around the clearing, locking him inside. The human looked around, then back at her, still calm. "So, the game ends here," he said. She bared her teeth in a smile, her blade raised. "Yes," she whispered, "now you cannot escape." She lunged, her strike sure. But once more he surprised her. He stepped into her attack instead of away, his hand catching her wrist. Her blade stopped inches from his chest. Her eyes widened as he held her arm, not with brute strength, but with perfect timing. His other hand rested lightly on her shoulder, steady, fearless. "You set the trap," he murmured, "but sometimes the trap closes on the hunter too." Her breath caught in her throat, her golden eyes locking with his. The net glowed around them, the air heavy with silence. For the first time in years, she did not know what to do. Her instincts screamed to finish him, to rip free and strike again. But her heart thundered with something else. Curiosity, respect, and a strange pull she had never felt before. The huntress stood frozen, her blade still between them. But her mind no longer saw him as prey. The forest seemed to vanish, the trap lights fading into the background. There was only the human before her, steady, unafraid, unbroken. And for the first time, she wondered if the true hunt had only just begun. The energy nets hummed around the ancient stone circle, casting blue light across the clearing. The huntress stood with her blade locked in the human's grasp, her arm trembling, not from weakness, but from confusion. Never had anyone stopped her weapon like this, not without fear, not without begging for mercy. And yet, here he stood, steady eyes burning into hers, his voice calm as the wind. "You fight like a storm," he said quietly, "but even storms could be endured." Her chest tightened, her breath sharp. Was this arrogance or truth? She twisted her wrist free and jumped back, her claws scraping against stone. The blade glowed bright as she crouched low, her hunter's instincts rising once more. No prey had ever pushed her so far. She would show him the true fury of her kind. With a cry that shook the silent forest, she leapt forward, her movements blurring with speed. The human rolled aside, the blade striking the ground and sparking against the stone. She spun, her claws lashing through the air, but he ducked beneath the strike. Every movement he made was simple. No elegance, no alien strength, only human timing. And it was enough. The clearing filled with the clash of predator and man. Her blade slashed, his body weaved, her claws struck, his fists blocked. Each time she thought victory was near, he slipped from her reach like smoke. But each time he dodged, he came closer, not running away, but moving in, step by step, breath by breath, as if daring her to give everything she had. The huntress growled, her golden eyes flashing. She struck with both hands now, her claws moving in a storm of steel. The human met the storm with calm defense, turning his body, letting her strikes miss by inches. And when his fist struck back, it was not with the force of a predator, but with the focus of a man who had studied her every move. A sharp blow to her side forced her back, pain flashing through her ribs. Her body staggered, but her spirit only burned brighter. No one had ever touched her in combat like that. No one had ever made her feel the sting of weakness. Her pride roared, her blood sang, and for the first time, she felt alive in the hunt. Not as a predator playing with prey, but as a warrior tested by an equal. She lunged again, her blade high, her roar echoing through the ruins. The human caught her wrist once more, his hand steady as stone. Their bodies collided, locked together in raw struggle. His eyes were close now, his breath warm against her skin. For a heartbeat, the fight paused. Not because of strength, but because of something else. The world around them faded into silence, leaving only the two of them bound in tension. Her claws hovered at his throat, ready to pierce flesh. His fist pressed against her chest, ready to strike her heart. A single choice and the fight would end, but neither moved. Instead, their eyes burned into each other, predator and prey staring not with hatred but with fire. The huntress felt her pulse race, her mind torn between instinct and something far more dangerous. She was supposed to kill him, yet she wanted to know him. With a snarl, she broke the silence, pushing him back with a sudden surge of force. He staggered but did not fall, his stance steady, his smile faint. "You are stronger than I imagined," she admitted, her voice low and rough. The human straightened, wiping blood from his lip. "And you are fiercer than any story told about your kind," he answered. The words carried no mockery, only respect. It shook her more than any wound. The nets around them flickered, shadows shifting across their faces. The huntress lowered her blade slightly, not in defeat but in curiosity. She studied him, the way he stood tall despite exhaustion, the way his eyes refused to break from hers. For the first time, she wondered if this hunt was no longer about victory. Perhaps the real test was not strength or speed. Perhaps the true hunt was for understanding. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken tension. And though her instincts screamed to end it, her heart whispered something new. The fight was not over, but it was no longer just a fight. The huntress paced slowly inside the circle of ancient stones, her blade still glowing in her hand. The human stood across from her, his chest rising with calm breaths, his body marked with scratches, but his eyes never breaking. The nets around them hissed and crackled, caging them together in blue light. Predator and prey locked in silence. But something deeper stirred in the space between them. "You fight well," she said at last, her voice low like a growl. "Better than most who fall to me." The human tilted his head, his lips curving into a faint smile. "Maybe because I don't see this as just a fight," he answered. She narrowed her golden eyes, her claws tightening on the hilt of her blade. "What do you mean?" she asked. He stepped forward, slow, steady, fearless. I know your kind, he said. You hunt not only for blood, but for meaning. The words struck her like a spear to the chest. She froze, her body tense, her mind racing. No one outside her people should know that truth. To the galaxy, her species were predators, killers, warriors who thrived on battle. But within their tribes, the hunt was more than survival. It was ritual, passion, a test of spirit and soul. Her people hunted not just to kill, but to feel alive. How could a human know this? Her claws trembled on the blade. Speak carefully, she hissed, or your blood will paint these stones. The human did not flinch, did not step back. Instead, he lifted his gaze to meet hers directly. When I left my world, I studied yours, he said. I read the old records, the forgotten wars, the stories your kind left behind. I know that to defeat a huntress is not only to survive her blade, he continued. It is to face her heart and show her something stronger than the hunt itself. Her breath caught, her pulse rising. His words carved through her like no weapon ever had. For he spoke the unspoken truth of her life, the secret buried beneath every kill, every chase, every victory. The huntress had always felt it, the emptiness after each hunt ended, the silence that followed when prey lay dead at her feet, the gnawing hunger that never faded, no matter how many battles she won. And now this human, this fragile creature, had spoken of it as if he had lived it too. She stepped closer, her blade trembling between them. You dare to claim knowledge of my kind, she growled, her voice shaking. You dare to think you understand me. But the human's eyes burned with steady fire. Not think, he said no. The air grew heavy, the silence between them sharp as glass. The huntress felt her chest rise and fall, her claws aching to strike. But another feeling rose stronger, a pull she could not fight. For the first time, her instincts as predator clashed with her instincts as woman, and it shook her to the core. Her voice dropped, softer now. If you know my kind, she whispered, then tell me, why do you not fear me? The human smile widened, not mocking but warm, steady, unshaken. Because fear is for prey, he said, and I told you already, I am not prey. The words echoed in her chest. Her golden eyes locked with his, the fire inside her burning hotter than battle. The forest seemed to lean closer, the stars above watching silently. In that moment, she felt the world tilt, the balance between predator and prey shifting into something new, something forbidden, something dangerous. But she could not pull away. The huntress lowered her blade a fraction, her breath sharp. This human had spoken truth she had never admitted even to herself. And now she stood trapped, not by her own nets, but by his fearless gaze. For the first time in her life, she was no longer sure who was the hunter and who was being hunted. The huntress kept her blade raised, yet her arm trembled. It was not weakness that shook her, but the storm inside her chest. Her instincts screamed for the kill, to end the hunt and taste victory. But another voice whispered deeper, a voice she had never heard before, one that asked not for blood, but for something else. The human stood calm, the glow of the nets painting his face in blue light. He did not press forward, did not attack. He simply waited, as if daring her to decide. His stillness unsettled her more than any weapon. She was used to prey begging, running, fighting in desperation. But this man faced her like an equal, steady and unbroken. That made her heart race faster than battle ever had. With a sudden roar, she slashed again, her claws a blur of steel. The human dodged, his movements sharp but simple. Each strike she threw met with empty air, each slash missing by a breath. And when he moved, it was not to harm, but to test. His steps drew closer with every dodge, every shift of his body. It felt less like battle and more like a dance. And though her pride burned, part of her did not want it to stop. She lunged again, her blade aimed at his chest. But he caught her wrist once more, turning her momentum aside. Their bodies collided, locked together, her claws hovering inches from his throat. His fist rested just above her heart. One strike each and it would end. But neither struck. Instead, they froze, their breaths heavy, their eyes locked, the silence between them louder than the clash of their fight. The Huntress's golden eyes narrowed, but her lips parted in a slow, unsteady breath. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears, not with rage, but with something hotter, something unfamiliar. She hated it, yet she craved it. She pulled free and stepped back, her chest rising fast. "You confuse me," she hissed, her voice rough. The human smiled faintly, wiping blood from his cheek. "Maybe you confuse yourself," he replied. The words cut her deeper than any wound. She growled low, circling him once more, but her strikes grew slower, less certain. Not because she was tired, but because her mind was no longer clear. Every time their eyes met, her chest tightened. Every time his hand brushed her arm, her claws faltered, and she could not deny it. Each clash, each near strike, felt less like an attempt to kill, and more like something else, something that stirred both fury and longing. The human stepped closer, his voice steady. "You don't want to end this," he said. Her jaw clenched, her claws flexing. "You think you know what I want," she snapped. He nodded, unafraid. "Yes," he said softly, "because your hunt has already changed." The words echoed in her chest. She wanted to deny them, to strike him down and silence his voice. But her body betrayed her, her blade lowering a fraction. She had hunted countless times, and always the thrill was in the kill. But now the thrill was in the struggle itself, in the fire that burned when their bodies clashed. She realized then, this was not only battle. This was connection, raw and dangerous. The Huntress stepped closer, her golden eyes blazing. "If you are wrong," she growled, "I will tear you apart." The human only smiled, steady and calm. "Then do it," he whispered, "if that is truly what you want." The air grew heavy, the nets crackled, the forest silent around them. Predator and prey stood face to face, blades and fists ready, hearts racing. But neither struck. For the first time in her life, the Huntress hesitated not from fear, but from desire. The desire to see how far this strange human would go. The desire to see how far she herself would go. And as their eyes burned into each other, the line between blood and passion blurred. The hunt was no longer just about survival. It was becoming something far more dangerous. And she knew, deep in her heart, there was no turning back. The Huntress stood in silence, her blade still raised, but her grip was not as steady as before. Her golden eyes burned with conflict, her chest rising and falling like waves in a storm. She had cornered prey countless times, and always the end was simple, death or victory. But this man, this human, refused to fit into either truth. He had broken the rules of the hunt, and worse, he had broken the rules of her heart. Her claws twitched as she stared at him, her weapon shimmering in the glow of the nets. The human stood calm, his breath steady, his eyes unyielding. He should have looked broken by now, bloodied and defeated. Yet he only looked stronger, as if every strike she had thrown had forged him instead of weakening him. That defiance unsettled her, but also drew her closer. Force strength alone never impressed her, but willpower, that was rare. "You should be dead," she whispered, her voice raw, "and yet here you stand." The human's lips curved into a faint smile, tired but fearless. "Maybe you never wanted me dead," he said softly. Her claws tightened, her pride flaring. She growled low, baring her teeth. "You think I hold back," she snapped. "You think I show mercy." But her own words rang hollow, even to her, because deep inside, she knew the truth. He stepped closer, slow and deliberate. His hand brushed against the edge of her blade, steady, unshaken. "You had chances," he said, his voice low, "in the forest, in the fight, even now. Yet you chose not to end it." Her breath caught, her body tense. Every word was a strike against her walls, tearing down the mask of predator she had worn all her life. She wanted to strike to silence him with one final blow, but her arm refused to move. Instead, her heart pounded louder, her throat tightening with something she could not name. Was it weakness or something else? Her instincts as a huntress told her to finish the hunt. But another force, one far stronger, held her back. The human's hand rose slowly, touching her wrist. Not with force, not with demand, but with calm pressure. She could have killed him in that instant, could have ended everything. But his touch froze her more completely than any weapon. His eyes met hers, steady and unafraid. And in them she saw no fear, no submission, only acceptance and something dangerously close to understanding. The huntress's breath grew uneven, her body trembling with the weight of choice. Her blade pressed lightly against his throat, one push away from blood. Her claws flexed, her pride screamed. Yet her heart whispered, "Why can't I end him?" she thought. The answer came unspoken, but clear. Because he was no longer prey. Her kind believed the true hunt was not about killing. It was about testing the soul, about finding a match worthy enough to burn against. And somehow, this human had passed where all others had failed. Not through strength, but through spirit. Not through blood, but through fire. Her arm shook, the blade trembling. Slowly, painfully she lowered it. The glow dimmed as the weapon sank to her side. Her chest heaved as if she had run 1,000 miles. Her golden eyes softened. No longer predator's fire, but something deeper. Something she could not admit, even to herself. The human exhaled slowly, his shoulders relaxing. He did not step back, did not gloat. He only whispered, "You chose." The huntress swallowed hard, her throat dry. "I do not understand why," she said, her voice unsteady. "But I could not kill you." The nets around them flickered, sparks breaking the circle. The forest beyond seemed to hold its breath. The hunt had ended, but not in blood. It had ended in something far more dangerous. For the first time in her life, the huntress had spared prey, and she knew there would be no return from this choice. The forest held its breath as the nets around the stone circle flickered out. Blue light faded into darkness, leaving only the silver glow of the twin moons. The huntress stood with her blade lowered, her golden eyes fixed on the human before her. Her chest still heaved from the battle, her claws still tingled with hunger. But it was not the hunger for blood anymore. It was something sharper, something far more dangerous. The human took a slow step forward, his movements calm. He was bruised, his lip bleeding, yet his stance was strong. There was no fear in him, no trembling. He had faced her fury and stood through it all. And now he looked at her not as predator and prey, but as equals. That truth unsettled her more than any wound. "You chose not to kill me," he said softly. The huntress tightened her grip on her weapon, though it hung useless at her side. "I do not know why," she admitted, her voice raw. The words were bitter on her tongue, yet honest. She had never spoken weakness aloud, never confessed doubt to anyone. Yet before this man, the words came like breath, unstoppable. The human's hand rose slowly, steady and unafraid. He brushed his fingers lightly against her arm. The touch sent a shiver across her skin, a spark that traveled deep into her chest. Every instinct told her to strike, to rip the hand away. But instead she froze, her body betraying her heart. It had been long since anyone had dared to touch her. Long since anyone had looked at her and seen more than a weapon. Her golden eyes narrowed, but not in anger, in confusion, in curiosity, in something that burned hotter than rage. "You are reckless," she whispered. "You should fear me." The human's lips curved into a faint smile. "Maybe," he said, "but fear is not what I feel when I look at you." Her breath caught, her claws flexing. "What do you feel then?" she demanded. The human's gaze did not waver. "Respect," he said first, his voice steady. "And something else," he added after a pause. Her heart pounded, her body tense as a bowstring. She should have laughed, should have cut him down for such words. But instead she stepped closer. Her blade slipped from her hand, falling silent onto the stone. The night wrapped around them, the forest still. Predator and prey no longer at war. The huntress studied him, every scar, every mark, every steady breath. And she realized what terrified her most was not losing the hunt, but losing the fire he had sparked inside her. Her people had always said the greatest prey was the one who could change the hunter. And now she understood. This man had done what no warrior of her kind ever could. Slowly, carefully, she reached up, her clawed hand brushing against his cheek. The human did not flinch, did not move away. His eyes burned into hers, steady and unbroken. For a heartbeat, the world stood still. And in that heartbeat, the hunt ended. Not with blood, but with passion. The huntress leaned closer, her breath warm against his. Her golden eyes softened, no longer filled with the hunger of predator, but with something far more dangerous, desire. Their foreheads touched, their breaths mingling. She whispered, almost against her own will. Perhaps the true hunt was never about death. The human's lips curved into a faint smile. Perhaps, he murmured, it was about finding each other. The forest sighed with the wind, the ruins silent witnesses to the moment. The huntress no longer felt empty, no longer felt the hunger of endless battles. For the first time, she felt complete, not because she had won, not because she had spared, but because she had found something stronger than the hunt. And though her kind would never understand, though the galaxy would never accept it, she knew the truth in her heart. The alien huntress had found her match, and the hunt had become passion, forever binding predator and prey as one.